Rob Carson back. Another episode of Sound Bites here on Spoonie.com. Why am I playing Ry Cooter?
I wish somebody would tell me what
Diddy what diddy
mean.
Because I got somebody very special on the phone with me, Ardie Davis, a.k.a. Remus Powers, joining me. Just a barbecue master on the phone. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Rob?
Good. Thought I'd start with Little Ry Cooter, and I will explain what that's...
I love that music.
I know. And we'll explain what that's all about here very shortly. And, Ardie, I want to welcome you to the show. I don't even know where to start as far as introducing you. You're a barbecue guru. You're a barbecue guru. You've written altogether, was it 9 or 10 books altogether?
If you include revisions, it'd be 13. And, I've co-authored with Paul Kirk several of them, and one with Carolyn Wells. And it's all a labor of love. If you've ever done any books, unless you're a great big celebrity, It's mostly a labor of love, but it's a lot of fun, and I love to share.
Well, let me ask you this, my friend, because it takes a rare breed to be guided into spending your entire life devoted to barbecue. All right, before you devoted your life to barbecue, where was your life headed?
Oh gosh, I thought I would be a teacher, and I've always loved philosophy and sociology, and so I feel like I'm a teacher of that, even through barbecue. And that, I haven't made a living with barbecue. It's always been a hobby, but it's been a very fulfilling hobby.
Well,
So I have been a teacher. I've been a YMCA executive in New York City, and jobs program director in Johnson and Leavenworth counties, and then statewide in Kansas. So it's been mostly public service jobs and some restaurant jobs.
Yeah.
I recommend that for anyone who cares about food, and especially who likes to write about food.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you're most famous. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
No.
So one of the things you're most famous for is the World Series of Barbecue, the American Royal World Series of Barbecue. And that started off originally. That was not necessarily just about like meat and stuff. That was a sauce competition.
Yeah, it was sauce, and it was back in August, I believe, of 1984 when I got the idea. It was a really hot summer day here in Kansas City, and my wife and kids were up in Minnesota visiting relatives. So I had Ry Cooter's Paradise and Lunch on. I was reading Jane and Michael Stern's road food book.
Yeah.
I was thinking, man, those people are lucky. They can go around the country and eat barbecue and write about it and get paid for it. But I said to myself, well, I'd never be able to do that. But I would like to at least try the sauces of the 80-some places they had visited.
Yeah.
Well, and then, so I started writing letters, and I decided, well, if I'm going to that much trouble, why not make it a contest? So, and since Ry Cooter was singing Diddy Wah Diddy at the time, I thought that'd be a great name for a sauce contest. So I invited a lot of people, and I've always insisted that if you want to call it a barbecue sauce contest, you have to try it on real barbecue.
Yeah.
If you're doing it on fingers or saltines or bread, you have a finger sauce contest or a bread sauce contest or a saltine sauce contest. So from the very beginning, I barbecued meat without any seasoning, just so that the sauces could do the seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
And I had over 100 sauces at that time. Wow. That's how I met Paul Kirk. Some good friends said, our neighbor talked about this guy that owns Mollypots, Chops, and Chicken, and he'd probably be a good sauce judge for you. So I got his contact information, and Paul and his wife and kids showed up and helped judge. So I just went from there to, my wife said, well, this place, our little house, is not big enough for this kind of thing. Why don't you do a fundraiser? So we went from there to the Prairie Center out near Olathe to help save the native prairie there, which fortunately now is owned by the state, and it was preserved. And then from there to benefit the MS Society at Crown Center. And after that, the American Royal changed their meat contest date to the same dates of my sauce contest. And so I called them and I said, I deliberately set my dates to not conflict with yours. What's going on? They said, you need to talk to Jack Kay. He was the director of the barbecue at the time. So Jack and I met for probably 2 hours at Chili's on Metcalf, which is now closed. We had ribs and a good discussion. Finally decided, well, let's marry the meat contest with the sauce contest.
Yep.
So we did. That first year, we called it the Diddy Wah Diddy.
Nice.
They figured that sounded too serious, so we renamed it American Royal. So it's been a great marriage ever since.
Now I've been a couple times, and I competed actually about 3 to 4 years ago when it moved to the Kansas Motor Speedway. But it's been several different venues. How do you like it at the Kansas Motor Speedway, my friend?
It has pluses and minuses. Overall, I think it's a great choice to be out there because of the size of the event.
Yeah.
We just outgrew the West Bottoms.
Yeah.
I have nostalgic feelings for the West Bottoms because, that's where the Royal started down in the Golden Ox parking lot.
Yep.
It's grown so big, it just can't handle it anymore down there. And they are moving the Royal campus out to that same area near the Legends.
Nice.
I don't know what the timeline is, but it'll give them a lot more space.
Yeah. Well,
so, but for the teams, I think the teams love it because they have plenty of room, and the public seems to love it because you get a big turnout. It's a matter of getting the right dates. I think they tried it on Labor Day one time, and that didn't work because people have so many other commitments then. I mean, it worked, but not as on the biggest scale as we like.
Yeah, we're talking to, by the way, Ardie Davis. We're talking to Ardie Davis. He's, I don't even know where to start, one of the greatest barbecue aficionados in the country, also known as Remus Powers, created the American Royal World Series of Barbecue, has authored a bunch of different books, and is pretty much a barbecue guru. I want to ask you had a life-changing experience because you are not a native Kansas City, and you moved from New York City, of all places. And you came out here, and you went to Arthur Bryant's. Tell us what happened at Arthur Bryant's with you, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I had a predisposition to love barbecues. I was raised in Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, we did come here from New York City, and there we had a babysitting pool, and a lot of the babysitting pool members became good friends, and it happened that a couple were visiting us here. They'd never been in Kansas City or this part of the country, and they were curious. But the guy had read about Arthur Bryant's, and I didn't know a thing about it at the time. He asked if we'd tried it, and I said no. So let's go. So we did, and loved it, and got hooked on Bryant's. I've been hooked on that ever since. I don't think I could move from Kansas City because it would be too far from Arthur Bryant's.
Now, one of the things one of the things you had was burn ins, and honestly, anybody who's never had a Kansas City burn in before, that can be not only a life changing but a religious experience.
That's right, and back then, Calvin Trillin called them burn edges,
Gotcha.
And they were free. They didn't even have them on the menu. It's just like you get in line and you could. It was basically the trimmings off of the brisket. Some was crunchy and fat and meat, that whole combination. And you could just reach in and put some on your plate and no charge.
And you just threw some on a piece of bread, didn't you?
Yeah, and you could eat. I'd even eat a handful. I was waiting in line. I mean, it was so good. And there are some places now in Kansas City, the demand is so high that they basically have to cube brisket and cook it again, so they get some bark on the outside. But some of them also slice it the way the old style Arthur Bryant's did. I don't even think Bryant's does that anymore.
Well, I went to not Q39. I went to Three Little Pigs. Chris Marks. Chris Marks brought me some of his meat marshmallows. I swear to God.
Oh, he is great. Chris knows that. he knows more than you and I both have forgotten, or he's forgotten more than we know.
Oh, his meat marshmallows, though. I'll tell you what. I mean, I've tasted since I moved to Kansas City. I moved from D.C., and I'm from the Midwest originally. But he brought me some of these. He calls them meat marshmallows down at Three Little Pigs, and you can see them online.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what. They are a roll your eye into the back of your head good. They're one of the best I've ever had.
I've got to try that.
Oh my gosh, in heaven! Where do you suppose? Because I moved around the country, and I personally think that, and I did an earlier food podcast. I've never been able to find burn ends, so it's obviously a Kansas City original. I mean, I tried some knockoffs at different places, Famous Dave's when I was in Washington D.C., and I was like, this is not Kansas City burn ends.
Yeah, it's a Kansas City specialty. I've noticed if you go to Dallas. And even in Houston, you'll find some places that offer burn ends. It's catching on in different parts of the country. But nobody does it like Kansas City. No,
I'd assume they might try it in Texas, because Texas is a little more known for brisket and beef barbecue.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm a great fan of Texas barbecue. I mean, in fact, a lot of our Kansas City people learned in Texas, so people who come to Kansas City for the first time, they'll discover that they'll have some familiar tastes, because we're a sort of a hodgepodge, or a melting pot of the greatest barbecue in the country.
Yeah,
we got Texas influence in Tennessee and Mississippi, and we benefit from all of that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good barbecue around the country. There's some mediocre, some to poor. When I lived in D.C., I couldn't find any. I said the best ribs you could find in Washington D.C. were at my house, because I couldn't find anything. True. I couldn't find anything out there. But can I ask you this real quick about the origins of barbecue? Because I've been kind of talking about this for a few years. Wasn't barbecue originally kind of a slave concoction because of cheap cuts of meat and how they made them taste better? Is that what this came from?
Well, that's our American style of barbecue. You could say that. Just reading Jim Auchmoody's book, Smokelore, A Short History of Barbecue in America, and he goes back, and I agree with him. He says we can never know the first, where it first started, because you find examples of it in charred bones, and archaeologists find examples of smoked meat or meat and fire in almost wherever they go. But you're right about our American style of barbecue. It really, I would attribute it to the enslaved people who they got all the cheap stuff that the plantation owners didn't want, and they discovered how they could make it really delicious.
Yeah.
Low smoke and. Yeah, you're on the right track there.
Well, I always find it. I always tell people, and I do when I talk about barbecue. I said the most important ingredient to me. Obviously, smoke's going to be important, fire's going to be important, but the most important ingredient is time.
Right. You have to be patient. I mean, if you want to grill something, you don't need as much patience. But if you want to smoke it and make it tender and delicious, you have to devote some time to it.
Now, let me ask you about...
They say in Alabama, the barbecue's ready when the whiskey bottle's empty, but then you'd probably be too drunk to enjoy it.
What are some of the favorite woods you like to use? Because I know I use, for instance, on brisket and on beef, a lot of times I'll take a cue from Texas, and I'll use pecan wood. I use hickory a lot here in cherry and apple. What are your favorite woods?
Yeah. My favorite combo is pecan and apple.
Oh.
But I also like oak, when it's not as easy to find. And I get chips or little chunks. And most of the time I'll use pecan and apple.
Well, it's because generally they make furniture out of oak. They don't use it for cooking.
Yeah, that's right. Now and then I'll use a little bit of cherry, but you have to be careful with it, because too much you'll get a bitter flavor.
Yeah.
A little bit, it's nice and mellow.
Can I ask you about can I ask about mesquite? Because mesquite, I guess maybe I haven't used much of it lately because I had heard from somebody, maybe an expert, that it's a little bit too bitter to use. What about mesquite? Have I been given mesquite a short shrift?
Yeah, it's in moderation. Unless you like a real heavy smoke. Otherwise, I'd say mesquite is good if you use it lightly. Otherwise, it's gonna be too smoky. Yeah, and some people like that. I have a good friend in Texas, and the smokier the better.
Talking to Ardie Davis, he's a barbecue guru, barbecue legend, barbecue Hall of Fame member, among other things. Written now, I guess, 13 books altogether about barbecue. Other than Kansas City, where would you recommend if you were going to be doing a barbecue or tour of America? Where would you recommend people avoid, and where would you definitely recommend that they stop?
Well, I'm a great fan of Tennessee. I love Memphis. In fact, I'm going there next month to judge the Memphis and Bay barbecue. But my only issue with Memphis or Tennessee and North Carolina and South Carolina, they tend to be dogmatic about what barbecue is. If it isn't pork, it isn't barbecue. And they know how to do some good stuff, but I would. They're definitely on the barbecue map. And then I love Texas. I love Lockhart, Dallas, Houston. And as you mentioned, especially the beef part, that's where you can get some great beef ribs and great beef brisket. You can even get goat at a lot of the places.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Barbecue is becoming so popular nationwide that if you look hard enough, or if you're in a town and hungry for barbecue and you never heard of any place there, ask a firefighter or ask a police officer. They'll know.
Yeah. One of the things that I want to mention, because you started with sauces, Ardie. One of the things that I admire about the Asian culture is their use of sauces. And I discovered this when I lived in Washington, D.C., because there's a place called the Great Wall Grocery Store open near my house. And I walked down the aisle, and I thought maybe the grocery aisle in Kansas City with regard to barbecue sauces is amazing. You walk into an Asian market, and you want to talk about sauces, every kind of sauce you can possibly imagine, right?
That's right.
Oh.
And I always say, if it doesn't need sauce, don't use it. But if you're going to use sauce, use it in moderation, because barbecue itself is a wonderful flavor if you do it right. And you want to. Some people drown it in sauce, and you might as well just bake it in the oven.
Yeah.
But,
you're not in
the world of seasonings is just fabulous. I mean, there's so many possibilities.
Yeah,
infinite possibilities.
What about mopping? Because a lot of people don't mop, and I'll see this on the Food Network, and I'll see them just soak and mop and soap. And I mean, why don't you just soak a towel and eat it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't mop. I could see it if I was cooking a whole hog. I might want to mop with a vinegar base just to keep it moist, but then some apple juice maybe. But overall, I wouldn't mop with sauce, especially the sauces that are high in sugar content.
Yeah.
It's just going to burn,
Let me, one of the things that disappointed me the most about the American Royal, and I competed at the American Royal, and my potatoes ended up getting like 67th place, by the way. Thank you very much. But one of the things that bothered...
Well, that's respectable given almost 500 teams.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that kind of disappointed me, and I wonder if they're ever going to change this, is the serious, I guess, I have an issue with injecting brisket, because it reminds me of blood doping if you're doing the, the bike ride in France, the Tour de France. It really bothers me. How do you feel about that?
I don't like it. I don't think brisket needs injections. It's to me it would, but unless you get judges who like something other than the raw purest brisket flavor, I would think it would put them at a disadvantage. But
How did they let that happen? How did they let that start? Because it really bothers me.
Yeah, well, it happens. Memphis does the same thing. They inject their pork butts and their whole hogs with various stuff. Some of them even use an embalmer's tool to inject the whole hogs.
What?
I don't know how that started. I think everybody's looking for an edge to win, and they think it's a way to keep the meat moist and add some flavor. And I personally wouldn't do it, or wouldn't prefer it, because I want to taste the meat. I don't want to taste meat that's overpowered with other seasonings.
I was a little disappointed in it. Let me ask you about going back to Kansas City, because there's some places here that are pretty amazing. Q39 is a new concept. I know Rob, the gentleman who put this thing together, kind of a chef concept. Yeah. I've had him on the podcast
He's
before.
Amazing.
I'll tell you what. Tell me, what are your thoughts about Q39?
I happen to be a big fan of it. I know he's mastered being able to cook a brisket in less time than most of us could do at home. But he's a CIA trained chef, Culinary Institute of America, and a lot of experience in restaurants as well as on the contest circuit. So, I've never had a piece of brisket or burn-ins there that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I like his ribs. I like that Mr. Burns sandwich and his brisket burger.
Yeah.
I love it because that's where he has, the sliced burn edges style of Arthur Bryant's there on top of the brisket, ground brisket and grilled or smoke grilled. Yeah, and his chicken wings, love that. He has that chipotle sausage and the cassoulet, white bean cassoulet.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is Rob McGee we're talking about. He's created this concept, and I think it's going to be. He's got 2 locations, and there's more coming.
Yeah.
But he has changed it.
We call it chef driven.
Yeah.
There's also Dan Jansen out in Olathe. He's a CIA grad, and he's doing some great stuff. I haven't been there lately, but he has some barbecue bowls. If you haven't tried it, I think you'd like it.
What's the name of the place?
It's called The Rub. Just REB, The Rub. Yeah.
I'm familiar.
It's kind of on the outskirts of Olathe.
Yeah.
But I hope the city is growing his direction, because anybody who's out near there is going to be in for a treat.
Ardie Davis, let me ask you this, because I've got a couple of sauces, and I've only lived in Kansas City back here in the Midwest for about 4 years. My favorite sauce is going to be either Gates Extra Hot or Oklahoma Joe's Night of the Living Sauce. I like heat, though. Are there any that are there outstanding to you that you go, oh, you got to get some if you're in Kansas City?
Well, I'm a big fan of Arthur Bryant's original.
Yes,
but Gary Burbelia he modified it. Well, he mastered the original recipe, but then he did this what he calls sweet heat, and I really like that too. It's just got a little bit of heat in it, a little bit of sweet. It's the original Arthur Bryant style. That's one of my favorites. I love the Rosedale sauce too. It's an old Kansas City style sauce. KC Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Even though it's national.
Yeah.
When I do barbecue beans, I always include some KC Masterpiece, and people love it.
Can I ask you this? With regard to barbecue beans, with regard to smoker beans, tell us about that. Because most people, they do their beans stovetop. How do you make great smoky barbecue beans?
Okay, well, I learned this from Paul Kirk. And you develop your own style after you start with the basic. Get some canned pork and beans.
Yes.
And they can be cheap ones or, the regular mainstream Van Camps or Bushes, whatever. And the secret is you rinse them. Don't just doctor them up, because if you don't rinse them, your product is going to taste like doctored up Van Camp's pork and beans or whatever.
Yeah.
So you rinse that sauce off. The beans will still keep some flavor. Then make sure you put a lot of barbecue meat in it. And this is where it's good to save your trimmings, your rib trimmings or leftovers, freeze them, save them for your next batch of barbecue beans.
Yeah.
And the more the better. The more meat, the better. Then you add some barbecue sauces. I just put together whatever's in the kitchen or in the refrigerator, and always include some KC Masterpiece.
Yeah.
And then, but everyone has their favorites. This is a combination of whatever's in my refrigerator.
Yeah.
And some brown sugar. I usually put some cream style corn in.
Yeah.
For a thickener, and it's also a more balanced protein.
Yeah.
And I've been known to put peach preserves in it for a little sweetness. You just doctor it up to your taste.
Yeah.
And I guarantee people. Then you can put it in your smoker.
Yep.
Or you can bake it in your oven. Or just heat it up in your oven until it bubbles, because you've already got the barbecue meat in there. So it's going to have that barbecue flavor.
Well, I'm a big believer in taking the extra meat and doing something good with it. For instance, I made a barbecued lasagna, and I made it with pulled pork, lightly sauced pulled pork, smoked sausage, a couple different kinds of cheeses. I had a come to cheeses moment, and it made ridiculous lasagna, barbecued lasagna. Oh my goodness. Absolutely incredible.
That sounds good.
Well, Ardie, I appreciate you joining me today, and you mentioned Jim Achmutkees. Sorry,
Jim Achmutkees.
Achmutkees. Sorry about that. His Smoke Lore is the short history of barbecue, and that's supposed to be good, huh?
Yeah, it is a wonderful book. Lots of eye candy. Jim and I are one of the. He's the only other person I know who collects barbecue postcards.
All right.
And that he's a great writer, and he was raised on barbecue. His grandpa I think he had a restaurant, and his dad was a great cook. So anyone who gets the book will enjoy it.
All right. Now you're going to be out of the 10 Kitchen in Weston, Missouri on April 22nd, right? Or 27th, right?
Yeah. There's something going on there. I think it's a guy named Joe that does a TV show or something.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a big deal.
All right.
I don't have any details other than that.
Yeah. Memphis in May, the World Barbecue Championship cooking contest on May 15th through the 18th. Great Lenexa Barbecue Battle, June 21st through the 2nd.
Those are coming up, and then American Royal is in September this year. So.
And you can check out your Smoke Sheet online barbecue news, right?
Right. Yeah. Ryan Cooper, he'll have some information about that Weston thing in there.
All right. Well, Ardie Davis.
Called the Smoke Sheet.
I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on.
Well, thank you, Rob. It's been a great pleasure.
All right, we'll be in touch. Maybe I'll see you out at the 10 Kitchen, April the 27th. Okay.
Hey, that'd be great. Love to see you there.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Oh, what an honor! What an honor! Do you realize, people, who you just heard? Do you realize who you just heard? Wow. Ardie Davis. Unbelievable. Honor and a privilege. He'd been interviewed by everybody, Anthony Bourdain. Go on and on and on. You got to make it to Kansas City if you want to taste some great barbecue. It's a gift to live here. My name is Rob Carson. That does it for this edition of Sound Bites. See you guys soon. I'm going to rock out with a little right cooter. See ya.